We're going to start back up on our series called Own the Moment. And this week we're going to talk about Own the Noise. So we are going to focus on Esther chapter 4, verse 16. It's in the NLT version if you guys want to follow along with me. It is, I will go into see the king. If I must die, I must die. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been excited about doing something, but you have people who are telling you some negative stuff to discourage you or put you down or tear you down in the process of doing whatever you wanted, what you were really excited to do? So I know during this COVID-19 situation, we are being really discouraged because we have people, I know some people have been telling me like camp's going to be canceled, we're not going to be able to go to camp. And so, but now we are in a situation where we're going to reopen Texas, and they are going to give us the option to do summer camps with the exception of doing social distancing and putting those rules in place. So we're still going to have camp. But there are a lot of negative people who are saying that, camp is going to be canceled, it's not going to be safe. In some ways, we think that camp won't be safe, but there are always ways to go around it. And there are always ways to keep each other safe but still have fun. And then that's how the whole world is going to try and do. We're trying to reestablish our lives as people because we have to have that life. But we also need to keep healthy and try and limit the spread of COVID. So we are trying our hardest here at church to be able to give you guys that time to get out of the COVID-19 situation and be able to establish ourselves as a church again. And we're working really hard at that as a staff. And so we're really excited to see you all pretty soon. We don't have those exact dates yet, but we are really excited to see you all. I know I miss you guys so much, and I'm excited to see you all again. But we are going to go through several points. I believe it's only 2 points. So, opposing noise. So, the first point is opposing noise. So as Esther steps into her calling and begins to own the moment, she encounters some opposing noise from Haman. And Haman is the man who is trying to get King Xerxes to sign a law into place saying to kill all of the Jews, or people who are going to honor somebody else other than King Xerxes. And so since Esther is a Jew and she's a queen, she needed to do something to help her people. And so we have Esther trying to save her people and trying to warn King Xerxes, this is what the order is going to do, and it's also going to kill me. And keep in mind, King Xerxes doesn't know that Esther is a Jew. And so, but he doesn't know, but he genuinely loves Esther, and he loves her as a wife or as a husband. And so she tries to use her position to be able to get King Xerxes to understand this is what's happening, and my people are going to die, and I am going to die if we have this rule in place or if we do something to oppose this rule. So you have Esther trying to fight with Haman, trying to reveal his plan. And so she is in the midst of doing this, and she's trying to figure out a way to get King Xerxes' attention enough for him to understand what's going on. And so she has Haman in her ear trying to tell her that she is trying to do something that is not in his plan. And so he's trying to stop Esther. Keep in mind that he also doesn't know that she's a Jew, but there is something there that he's like, oh, okay, she is doing something that's going to be against my plan. And so Esther is hearing all this negativity from Haman, and so she chooses to oppose it. Esther has become queen only to now find out that her people, the Jews, are facing annihilation, not the best news for the newly crowned queen. So in Esther chapter 3, verse 2, and there's several verses, and we'll go over that. So in Esther chapter 3, verse 2, in the NLT version, it says, all the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed away. For so the king had commanded. But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. In verse 6 of chapter 3 in Esther, it says, he has learned of Mordecai's nationality, so he decided it was not enough to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. In verse 13 of chapter 3, it says, dispatches were sent by swift messengers into all the provinces of the empire, giving the order that all Jews, young and old, including women and children, must be killed, slaughtered, and annihilated on a single day. This was scheduled to happen on March 7th of the next year. The property of the Jews would be given to those who killed them. So they have already made that order. Now the Jews have a year to either evacuate or defend, or will not really defend themselves. They were just going to be killed. And so anybody who killed a Jew would take their property of the person who they would kill. And so now Esther is on a time crunch. She's trying to stop an order that has been put in place in order to save her people. So now, with all that negativity, Esther is in that time crunch, and she is trying to fight time to be able to try and retract that order. Esther must either own the noise or let it defeat her. Try to imagine how scary this moment was for Esther. She was faced with death on either side. If you did nothing as a Jew, she could have been killed. And stepping into the king's presence without an invitation also meant death. She had a huge decision to make, and the outcome of the decision would be determined by the noise she chose to listen to. So she was hearing the opposing noise. She was hearing it, and what she could have done was let it defeat her, but she decided to block out that noise and be able to do what God has called her to do, because God had put her in that position to be able to save his people and to save her culture. So Esther can either be a victim of this negative noise, or she can own it. She can hide in her position and maybe save herself, or leverage her position to save the Jews. Esther can allow Haman's intimidating threats to paralyze her, or she can choose to stand up and act for her people. So she decides to block out that noise, and she decides to help her people, because that is what she is called to do. She's doing what God has calling her to do. So point number 2 is affirming noise. These are the people that aren't negative. These are the people that encourage you. Just as there's opposing noise, there is a certain calling that God has given you. So it's your choice to see if you want to take that negative noise and let it defeat you, or you can take that negative noise and block it out and listen to only what God is trying to do, or the people that God has put in place in your life to encourage you and to reach the goals that God has given you in your life. When you hear affirming noise, you hear, well, when Esther heard an affirming noise, her affirming noise was Mordecai. Mordecai was her cousin, her older cousin, but he was a Christian who he was a Jew who understood what she needed to do, and he gave her advice. He encouraged her. He poured into her. And now she's able to use all the lessons that Mordecai has given her to use to save the Jews in her population. and she's able to save herself as well. So in Esther chapter 4, verse 13 through 14, it says, Mordecai sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape with all other Jews when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this? So Mordecai is just reminding her, use your position. You've been put in this place for a reason. God put you in this place for a reason. And so use your position to be able to, you were put in this position to be able to save people. So use the position to save people. If you're scared, then remind yourself that you're only doing this so that you could save us as a population, as a culture, to save us and save yourself. If you save us, then that is a giant accomplishment. This is the reason why you were put in this place. Esther gives her time and attention to the positive voice of Mordecai, who affirms her identity and her future. Oftentimes we give the wrong voices too much of our time and attention and dwell more on what people think rather than what God has actually called us to do. I can remember a time when I started out playing violin. I started at 7 years old, and my dad had a desire for his children to learn at least one instrument, and so he asked me one day. He asked me, Nancy, what do you want to play as an instrument? And I looked at him and I thought about it, and I said, I want to play the violin. I don't know why I picked the violin. I think it was because of there were concertos and people playing the violin, and I saw it on TV and I was mesmerized. I loved the eloquence of the violin. I loved listening to it. I loved watching the movement of players, violinists playing the violin, and it was beautiful. And so he said, okay, we will start that. And so we got a violin, and he started me on private lessons, and I was on to book 1 of the Suzuki Methods out of 10. And so I started with book 1, and I'm halfway into it. There's probably about 20 songs you have to go through, and I was probably on the 10th song, and I get frustrated with it, and I tell my friends about it, and they say, well, then just quit. If you don't want to do it, then you should quit. But when I came up to my dad and I said I want to quit, he said no. And he said, if you are not going to quit, I am not going to let you, and you're going to go to your violin lessons, and you're going to practice, and you're going to do what you need to do to learn. And I got very mad. I didn't understand why he wouldn't let me quit, because I didn't want to do it. And so I continued on with the lessons, and he made me do them, and I did them. And then I went into orchestra in junior high, and I loved it. I loved orchestra. I loved suddenly doing the songs, and doing private lessons was not a problem for me anymore. I was able to do more advanced pieces and be able to challenge myself. And then it later led on to me going to high school in the high school orchestra, and then I was able to go into the youth band and play there, and then I was able to go into the adult worship band, and I was able to play in advance in my ear training and try to hear what I need to play. Now I can just do it effortlessly. And so now I'm at this position. And so looking back, I understood that my dad knew my calling in music. He knew that I was going to do bigger and better things with the violin, and that's why he didn't let me quit. So I as much as I didn't want to listen, I did listen, and I was listening to those affirming voices. My dad was an affirming voice, and it's paid off. He helped me, he heard my calling for it, and he didn't let me give up on it. So, my question is, are you listening to the opposing noises, or are you listening to the affirming noises? Are you allowing the opposing noises to defeat your purpose in life, to defeat the purpose that God has given you, the calling that He's given you to do His work? Or are you listening to those affirming noises and listening to people like your parents who are trying to lead you in the right path? Or are you listening to your mentors who are giving you advice on how to go through life and try to achieve your goals? Or are you listening to a teacher or a mentor or a pastor who is giving you affirming noise to affirm what your calling is, what your place is, and try and get you to the goal that you're trying to get to? So I want to encourage you that if you need an affirming noise, I can be that for you. Any of the youth leaders can be that for you. Any advice that you need, we'll try and give it to you. Or seek somebody out who is going to encourage you and to give you strength and wisdom to do what you need to do. So I hope you guys like this lesson. I really enjoyed it. And so if you need anything, let me know. Please text or call me. I love you all so much. And hopefully we get to see each other very, very soon in a safe way. So please stay safe and healthy, and I will see you guys next time.